Tonight at 10, in the last few minutes, President Trump has called on Iran to surrender and urged its people to rise up against the regime.
I'm once again calling on all members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the military and the police to lay down their arms. They're only going to be killed.
Tonight, more US-Israeli strikes light up the sky over Iran's capital, Tehran. We're on the border as Iranians flee.
Everybody, every single person is really getting scared and they want to get out of there.
Iran continues to hit back. In the last hour, these are the skies over the Israeli city of Tel Aviv.
And here in Dubai, throughout the day, more air raid alerts. Locals and hundreds of thousands of Brits told to find urgent shelter.
Start filming, straight inside! Straight inside!
Running for cover at an RAF base in Cyprus as air raid sirens go off. The Prime Minister says more support is being sent to the Middle East.
We will do everything we can to protect British lives, uphold British values and safeguard the national interest.
In other news, the government is to offer £40,000 to failed asylum seekers if they agree to leave the UK. And Saharan dust is coming our way with the prospect of orange and red sunsets.
On BBC London, schools are told they must provide allergy awareness training to all staff. We visit a school in North London where they're ahead of the game.
Good evening. Donald Trump has called on Iran's leaders to surrender and urged its people to rise up against the regime. Earlier, the president insisted that he must be involved in selecting Iran's next leader. Today, strikes on Iran by Israel and the US intensified, with reports of explosions in the capital, Tehran. We'll hear from Iranians living under attack. Retaliatory strikes have continued to be launched by Iran against many of its neighbours, which have US air bases, including in Saudi Arabia. And Sir Keir Starmer announced the UK was sending 4 additional Typhoon fighter jets to Qatar, saying the conflict could continue for some time. And the first government-chartered flight for Britain stranded in the Middle East is expected to land in the early hours of the morning. Well, these are all the countries in the region now caught up in this conflict on day 6 of the war. First, let's go straight to Washington and to our correspondent Tom Bateman, who's been listening to President Trump. Tom.
Rita, Donald Trump on his feet in the White House in the last few minutes, saying that he believes the American military is ahead of schedule, he says, in its total demolition of the enemy. Now, he set out a list of what he said were the accomplishments so far. He said that in the view of US forces, some 2/3 of Iran's missiles and launchers had now been wiped out by that massive aerial bombardment. He also said that the Iranians had been calling him, he said, but it was too late. He said it was the Americans that were now the ones that wanted to fight more than the Iranians. And he made another call to the entire military structure of the Iranian regime, calling for its surrender.
And I'm once again calling on all members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the military and the police to lay down their arms. They're only going to be killed. And now is the time to stand up for the Iranian people and help take back your country. You're going to have a chance after all these years to take back your country. Accept immunity. We'll give you immunity. And we'll be giving you really the right side of history, because that's what it is. So you'll be perfectly safe with total immunity, or you'll face absolutely guaranteed death. And I don't want to see that.
Now, President Trump reiterated once again that this doesn't appear for him to be about a complete top-to-bottom regime change. He is looking at the idea of decapitation, to do to Iran what he has already done to Venezuela. He also made a threat to Cuba as well, saying that they would be next in the next few weeks, potentially, he mentioned at one point. But that action that he is suggesting that he wants to see in Iran is now very clearly about him being the key person involved in deciding who succeeds the assassinated Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Now, there's been a lot of talk in the last few days about his second eldest son, Mojtaba. Mojtaba Khamenei is a 56-year-old. He is a hardline cleric. He is seen as very close to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and widely tipped by many to succeed his father to become the supreme leader in that assembly of experts decision-making that's supposed to be taking place at some point this week. Now, it was put to Mr. Trump today, would he want to see Mojtaba as the next leader? He said absolutely not. He's a lightweight. This would be unacceptable. And if that happens, the Americans would be back to war with Iran in 5 years' time. He said this: I have to be involved in the appointment, like with Delcy in Venezuela, making that comparison, saying that he wants effectively a decapitation and for President Trump to decide who leads Iran next. Other options, of course, are less radical figures seen as reformists. Mr. Trump has never said who he would like to be the next leader of Iran. But one thing is clear. He has said already this week they had many people in mind to be next. The problem is they end up being killed.
Tom Bateman in Washington, thank you. Israeli and US attacks on Iran have continued, with Israel saying it's moving to the next phase of its war, in which it'll further dismantle the regime and its military capabilities. Meanwhile, ordinary Iranians have been telling the BBC about their fears while under attack. Here's our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucet.
Tonight, the skies of Tehran are lit again by a war soon entering its second week. And there's no end in sight. The attacks by Israel and America, which started this day, left more deep scars. Even before the smoke cleared, Iran's flag was draped across destroyed buildings, perhaps a signal of defiance. The targets aren't clear in these crowded residential areas: members of security forces and their families, or police stations and government offices on these streets. The Azadi sports complex in West Tehran was also gutted. Israel claims it was a gathering and resting place for the regime's forces. Baliasr Street, cutting through the capital, is quiet. It's usually choked with traffic. Some people sent messages to the BBC's Persian service.
Personally, I don't really know what will happen. The only thing I do know is that I absolutely don't want anything to do with the clerics. I think most people feel the same way.
I have to stay mostly at home to avoid getting caught in the middle of an attack, just to save my life. And the sound of ongoing blasts is fatiguing.
They hit a lot of places near our house. They struck the police station and a Basij base. From what I can see, everyone's happy, though they are stressed because of the sounds.
The government tries to send a message that it's business as usual, and Iran is still fighting back.
We didn't start this war. This was not our war of choice. We were attacked. The aggressors are responsible for the consequences.
The consequences in Iran keep climbing. Nearly 800 dead since the start of this war, according to the Red Crescent Society. More than 2,000 military targets hit, says the US. And tonight Israel announced it's moving to the next phase, to dismantle the regime. Even as the clerics and commanders are said to be choosing a new leader to steer them through this existential crisis. Lise Doucet, BBC News.
Well, thousands of Iranians are fleeing the country, fearing for their safety. Our correspondent James Waterhouse is on the Turkey-Iran border and has sent this report from the town of Kapikoy.
War is not fine at all.
What's it been like? What's it been like the last few days?
This is war, real war. We have the return ticket. As soon as it's finished, we come because this is our home.
you worry about your family, I presume, inside? I mean, how safe are they?
In the war, there is no safety for nobody, even for us. So they attack all the city, even 200 meters from our home.
It's under pressure. A lot of bomb. A lot. I'm so upset. I'm upset about both sides. They're so embarrassing. I mean, in Iran and also the US, both of them, they can't even speak together. It's so embarrassing. That's it.
Firstly, I feel lots of sorrow for my country. We have lost a very great leader. As you see, I'm going back again to Iran. And I know everything on the ground, not through the media. It's terrifying.
The Americans might have encouraged the Iranians to revolt against their government, but the testimonies we've heard here do not suggest the regime has been weakened, especially when you consider their fears of reprisal for criticising the leadership in any way, even once they've crossed the border into Turkey.
And that was James Waterhouse there at the Iran-Turkey border. Well, meanwhile, Iran continues to strike at its neighbours with US bases. In the last hour, these are the skies over Tel Aviv in Israel, where what appears to be waves of Iranian missiles were fired on the city. But the conflict has expanded further beyond the Middle East. Drones hit an airport in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan's president vowed to retaliate after what he called a terrorist Iranian drone strike. And the United Arab Emirates says it has intercepted 6 Iranian missiles and 131 drones today alone. 1 missile and 6 drones landed on its territory. People in Dubai have been sent emergency alerts on their mobiles, again warning of potential missile threats. Well, our correspondent Nick Beek is there for us now, and the situation remains very tense, Nick.
Good evening, Rita. Yeah, that certainly is the case. Once again, the UAE is having to deal with a barrage of Iranian missiles and drones. No reported serious injuries or deaths today. But clearly this is a world away from the image that Dubai has carefully cultivated over the years of being a haven of tranquility, sunshine, low tax. Its influence central for many people, but as well as uploading and sharing content today, a lot of people were glued to their phones looking out for the next missile alert. We know that there are about 140,000 Brits who've registered for information from the UK government. We don't know just how many of those people want to leave. The first British repatriation flight has now departed belatedly. Someone on board described to us it being a complete shambles, the delay that was put down to a technical issue. There are more flights leaving the region, but still huge transport problems which need to be dealt with. And tonight, Rita, an illustration of this, a flight from France to the region had to turn back because of the threat of missiles coming from Iran.
Nick Beek in Dubai, thank you very much. Well, let's go straight to our correspondent Hugo Beshega, who's in Tel Aviv in Israel for us tonight. And Hugo, we saw those pictures, apparently waves of missiles in the skies across the city. Tell us more.
Yeah, Rita, we heard the air raid siren here in Tel Aviv about an hour ago, and then loud explosions indicating interceptions by the country's air defense systems. And then footage emerged indicating the use of a cluster bomb warhead. This is a kind of warhead that opens up when descending, spreading smaller munitions. And now there has been confirmation by Iran's Revolutionary Guards that a cluster missile had been used against Tel Aviv. The use of this kind of weapon is prohibited by the Convention of Cluster Munitions. Iran is not a signatory of this treaty. Now, the pace of Iran's attacks has diminished in recent days, and some of the restrictions that had been imposed here in Israel have now been relaxed.
Hugo Beshega there in Tel Aviv. Thank you. Well, as you heard earlier, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has been defending his decision for the UK not to get involved in the initial attacks on Iran at the weekend, led by the US and Israel. In Downing Street this afternoon, Sir Keir announced 4 more UK Typhoon fighter jets to Qatar, as he promised to strengthen defences across the Middle East. Sir Keir also confirmed that the first charter flight to evacuate British nationals from the Middle East had taken off from Oman. These pictures were released by the Foreign Office showing people getting on the plane before it took off this afternoon, heading for Stansted. With this report is Chris Mason.
Sir Keir Starmer said the Middle East had been plunged into chaos. He claimed he'd offer calm, level-headed leadership. And he told us more than 4,000 people have arrived back in the UK so far on commercial flights from the United Arab Emirates.
A further 7 flights are due to leave the UAE for the UK today. We will lay on additional charter flights in the coming days. This is a huge undertaking. It's one of the biggest operations of its kind, many times bigger than the evacuation from Afghanistan. It's not going to happen overnight.
From the civilian consequences to the military escalation, the Prime Minister said the UK was stepping up its defence of its allies.
We're sending 4 additional Typhoon jets to join our squadron in Qatar, to strengthen our defensive operations in Qatar and across the region. Wildcat helicopters with anti-drone capabilities are arriving in Cyprus tomorrow.
Anti-drone capabilities to try to stop this. What we're looking at here is a hole in a hangar at RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus, caused by a drone thought to have been launched by Hezbollah in Lebanon at the weekend. Helicopters like these here at a base in Somerset are the ones heading to the Mediterranean, seeking to reassure Brits and Cypriots.
Cyprus feels that we have not been helpful. It is extraordinary that Bahrain and Kuwait and the UAE are publicly criticising us. This is very worrying. They think that we're abandoning them.
Reform have repeatedly said the UK should be offering America more support. But
are you on the wrong side of public opinion here? A poll suggests the war is unpopular. The PM might well have got this right.
I don't follow public opinion. I follow a view that I've had for many, many years, that Iran is a major danger to the stability of the Middle East and indeed of the whole world. And if this mission stops Iran getting a nuclear weapon, it will have been worth it.
The government's response has been tardy in so many ways, particularly actually reassuring people at home, whether it's on energy bills, which people are really worried are going to go up, their heating bills, thanks to Trump's illegal war, or security here.
And now I'll take some questions. Chris, BBC first, please.
Can you address directly those at home and abroad who see your response and see indecision, prevarication and a lack of preparedness?
We started pre-deploying to the region in January and February, particularly to Cyprus and Qatar, and that was fighter jets, air defence missiles, advanced radar and anti-drone systems.
And this warship, HMS Dragon, will set off for Cyprus soon, with some asking why it didn't leave weeks ago. Chris Mason, BBC News.
Well, RAF Akrotiri on Cyprus has been in service for more than 70 years. It's been regularly used as a base for overseas UK operations in the Middle East. The BBC understands that there are 8 Typhoon and 6 F-35 fighters at Akrotiri. They've been used to combat Iranian drones and ballistic missiles. They'll now be joined by 2 Wildcat helicopters armed with specific weaponry to bring down drones. As Chris said, HMS Dragon will also be deployed to Cyprus but isn't due to sail until next week. And as you heard, they'll be joined by 4 more Typhoon fighters being sent to Qatar. Well, the Defence Secretary John Healey has been on a visit to RAF Akrotiri today, visiting service personnel there. And our Europe correspondent Jessica Parker was with him. The team had to shelter after sirens were heard on the base.
We're about filming. Straight inside. Straight inside. Straight inside. Please.
Well, we can speak to Jess, who is there for us now. And Jess, that was your footage there. And the UK government is coming in for criticism from people on the base.
Yes, the UK government certainly is coming under some criticism generally. It's important to say, I think, it's not unusual at the moment for these air raid sirens to be sounding at the base. This is an island that lies northwest of Lebanon, Israel, so they might detect something that looks like it could be heading in this direction. Then maybe turns out that actually it isn't. But this is a base for sure, an island that is on alert with a growing European defence presence. So you have Greek, French, Spanish, naval and air assets either already here or being deployed. What about HMS Dragon, the Type 45 destroyer that the UK is sending? Well, when we were on the base earlier today, I asked the Defence Secretary, John Healey, when that was going to arrive.
It'll be here as soon as we.
But when?
Well, it'll be here as soon as we can get it here. It'll be here within the next couple of weeks.
Within 2 weeks.
But what it will do, it will reinforce the air defences and the defence systems we have already got in place here, and we've had in place for weeks ahead of the conflict. I mean, we've got more jets here in Cyprus than any other nation.
Now, officials I've spoken to say they are confident that they have an increasingly robust air defence system now in place, and these anti-drone helicopters due to arrive very soon. But a drone did get through earlier this week, punching a hole in an aircraft hangar on a key British military base.
Jess, thank you. Jess Parker reporting there. Well, meanwhile, Israel has continued its military offensive inside Lebanon. They say they're attacking the Iranian-backed Hezbollah group who are based there. Extensive evacuation orders have been issued, including for the southern suburbs of the capital, Beirut, with Israel telling people to leave immediately if they wanted to save their lives. Here's our correspondent, Wira Davis.
Chaotic scenes in Beirut this evening. A mass exodus from the Lebanese capital after an unprecedented evacuation order from the Israeli military. Roughly half of the entire city, including Dahiya, a stronghold of the Iranian-backed Hezbollah, now under threat of even more bombing.
My kids called me. They told me the strikes were about to start. They warned me to leave Dahiya. There's nowhere else to go.
Israel's also targeting huge swathes of southern Lebanon. This all that remains of a 4-story building in the town of Saida. Israel said it was being used by Hezbollah. On this occasion, they issued a specific warning to evacuate. That's not always the case. The occupants, including several families, said they had half an hour to leave.
There are clear signs of support for Hezbollah here, but it's something that people are reluctant to talk about, given what's happened here already and the intensifying Israeli military operations here and further south.
I don't know why they hit here. There are only civilians, women and kids here, says Ahmed. There was no one with weapons. It's a nice area. Israel disagrees. Its troops have re-invaded southern Lebanon, continuing to bomb Hezbollah positions it says are targeting northern Israel. With thousands of civilians also ordered to leave the south, some have seen it all before, while others are oblivious to what might come next. Wira Davis, BBC News, Beirut.
The attack on Iran began without any authorization from the US Congress and has sparked debate about whether the action was legal under international law. The United Nations says countries shouldn't use force against another country except in self-defense or if action has been authorized by the UN itself. Our diplomatic correspondent Paul Adams reports.
In 6 days, the US and Israel have carried out more than 2,000 strikes on Iran, killed the supreme leader and many of his top officials, destroyed most of Iran's navy. But is any of it legal? President Trump has made a number of arguments.
Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime.
But the US hasn't said what those imminent threats were or provided any evidence. America's military build-up suggested conflict was likely, but no one thought Iran planned to attack first.
The gravity of this moment.
23 years ago, America took its case for war with Iraq to the UN Security Council. There's been no such effort this time.
The attack against Iran by the United States and Israel constitutes an armed aggression that is the most serious violation of international law. There's a prohibition on the use of force in international relations, which is the foundation really of the modern international legal system. And there are only very narrow exceptions to that prohibition.
But what about Iran's nuclear program? Despite talks in Geneva just last week, Donald Trump says Tehran has never properly renounced its nuclear ambitions. But was it close to developing a bomb? No one really thinks so. 6 days into this conflict, legal questions abound. An Iranian warship sunk thousands of miles away off the coast of Sri Lanka. Iran's reckless retaliation around the Gulf, hitting hotels and energy facilities. A conflict running to its own set of rules.
Article 51 of the UN Charter gives you a right to preemptive action in self-defence, but there doesn't appear to be any sound basis for it. The United States, in any case, hasn't really invoked that. It simply said that it's decided the Iranians they had enough of the Iranians and it's going to bomb them into submission.
International law is often sidelined. This one is, perhaps, no exception. Paul Adams, BBC News.